All right. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you guys for checking in with Loners again. Coming back to the family. You know, you got to come back home every now and then. This is episode number 134. Run the intro. So we hope y'all are doing well. Hope you guys are getting ready for Christmas. What was the other name for it? There's the foreign name for it.
The foreign name? Like, it's just Christmas here, and everywhere else it's the foreign name.
No. I'm thinking of that.
The German one, Krampus.
Krampus, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Wasn't there some horror movie about it?
Yeah, I don't think that's an actual holiday. I think it's just like a...
Is that a character?
Tradition, yeah.
Oh, got it.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
And not everyone celebrates Christmas. So, wow. Way to be offensive.
I remember last year. It's crazy how fast it's gone. Last year we wore the black. Yeah,
we still have
hats.
those.
Yeah, we'll wear them again.
We haven't put up our tree yet, guys. Aren't you so proud of us? It's the sixth.
We'll put it up soon.
I don't think we're gonna put it up.
I do want to put it up. Maybe next week. But all right. So today we're gonna do an episode called "How America Got So Stupid." This doesn't relate to me, at all. So.
Yep. Just
all
not
right.
Brian.
So let's see. It's by someone called Brit Monkey. So I'm guessing that they're a British person.
You want to know how I got this dislike ratio? I make a video praising the Soviet Union and nobody bats an eye. I make a video praising the United States and everybody loses their minds. Okay, fine. I hear you. You only want to hear things that confirm what you already believe. I get it. Let's talk about why Americans are stupid. There's a famous episode of the Jimberly Kimberly live show where clueless residents of Los Angeles fail to name a single country.
Is it South Africa?
Yeah, the country of Asia.
Greenland or Iceland or something?
Although these are no doubt cherry-picked, and I'm sure if you stood in a big city all day and shoved a camera in people's faces and asked them questions, you'd be able to find 3 minutes worth of people who couldn't answer on the spot.
Miss, for $1, name a woman.
Oh, yeah.
Name a woman?
Yeah.
Brian, name a woman.
Hillary Clinton. I don't know. What? I named a woman. Barack Obama. Michelle Obama.
Okay, I find it very funny. This is ironic. If anyone is on TikTok chronically, like myself, there's a trend going around right now where women are asking their male counterparts
To name one woman?
Yes. And they say that a good sign is if they name you. But the opposite of that have been men naming like the hottest woman in Hollywood. So I would rather you say Hillary Clinton.
I just thought of the first one that popped into my head.
I mean, yeah. Says a lot.
All right.
But the stereotype that Americans are ignorant about the wider world is largely true. These people can't name a country because they don't care about other countries. 40% of Americans have a passport, compared to 66% of Canadians and 76% of Brits.
Oh, wow.
In 1994, it was only 10% of Americans.
Damn.
But that doesn't mean Americans have gotten more globe-trotting since then. It was because after an above-average episode of the news, it became mandatory to need a passport when entering Canada and Mexico. So it's fair to say that a very small percent of Americans will be leaving this corner of the world. As I said in a previous video, America has all you'd ever want geographically within her borders. Why go anywhere else? The foreign cultures, maybe? Americans don't care about that either. On the list of the highest grossing movies in the USA, you have to go all the way to 520th place to get a movie that isn't American.
Wow.
It's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, by the way. Couldn't even beat The Nutty Professor. Somebody please check up on Ang Lee. I think he might have killed himself. Neither...
I'm not going to lie. I think it's only recently though, but I do love foreign films. But I think some of my favorites are like the South Korean films that are coming out.
Yeah,
those
a lot
are
of great Korean films.
Super good directing and acting.
And Netflix is doing a pretty, I would say, fair job of pushing foreign films, at least on our algorithm over here. I'm sure they're not the best films that other countries have to offer, but
yeah, I do.
There's a lot.
I do like the one a lot called Banshees of Inisherin. It's an Irish film.
Irish, yeah. That was a good one.
Super good. Yeah.
Do global affairs hold the average American's interest? When asked about the Kyoto climate...
To, keep pausing. I
What?
also, even though that is Irish-based and Irish actors, there's something still kind of Hollywood about it. But
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
But no, I feel like it doesn't. It's not a traditional movie. It feels like it's weird.
You don't think like just, I don't even know how to describe it.
Think about the way the directing is. It's so strange. They're not like trying to put on a huge performance. It's literally just a guy that feels bad that his friend doesn't like him anymore.
Right. I'm not talking about the storyline, but you know how when you watch certain like British films,
Mm-hmm.
it just looks like a different camera was filming it.
It might be the lighting of where they're at.
Never mind. I'm not gonna say it looks polished, but it looks like it still has Hollywood influence.
Yeah, I
don't
get that.
mean I don't mean like a blockbuster
Oh.
film.
But it looks like it's used with expensive gear, like really high top gear.
Like if it was a silent movie, never mind, because the landscape does look. Anyway, ignore me.
the Kurds, who the Taliban are, or who Nicolas Sarkozy is, Americans are woefully underinformed compared to other developed nations. In 2009, only half knew that last year's Olympics were held in Beijing. Oh, but of course, when asked to name American celebrities, they had no trouble at all. At the same time, we non-Americans are flooded with American culture. Some British people know more about American politics and history than their own.
Once you're dropped into the trench, depth, or the z-axis is...
It's Z-axis, you floppy-haired moron. France had to pass laws banning radio stations from playing too much American music.
What?
There are only 2 countries in the world where Coca-Cola is not sold. Wait, scratch that. This journalist from Finland bought a Coke at a water park in Pyongyang in 2017. And what's this hiding in the background of somebody's holiday snaps at the National Hotel de Cuba? Look, you know something's up when remote tribesmen in the Amazon rainforest who don't even have electricity know who Michael Jackson is. Americans used to be quite well read. After the Second World War, Americans consumed 63% of all the newspapers in the world, and they used this to their advantage. In 1948, the newly formed United Nations created a list of human rights that all countries should strive to uphold. One area that Americans were particularly interested in was this one, Article 19. Everyone has the right to freedom of expression and opinion, and receive and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. What the USA wanted was a completely level playing field. Anyone can buy any media from any other country. A global free market of ideas, released from the shackles of censorship. For if anyone can gain access to the truth, we cannot be marched into the same kind of ignorance and intolerance that characterized the Axis nations of the war. This is admirable. Freedom of speech is a core value of the United States and many other allied nations. But some
I feel like this sounds good, and this is like, maybe this is what they were trying to do initially, but it's gone the other way recently with...
It sounds like... Alright, keep going. What?
It seems like we've gone the other way recently, where they only want us to listen to what they want us to listen to, and they choose the forms of media that people are really... You know, like, to find another narrative, you have to really search. Like, it's
I don't
probably...
think you do anymore. I feel like you used to. Now everything's online. Like, if you have, especially on social media.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm saying like
But a
the
lot
first
of
things
it's
on the
still
headlines,
censored.
it's going to be probably the bigger media corporation that pushes a certain narrative. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say lazy, but if you're just going to let the information come to you, then yeah, it's just going to be bias.
Well, yeah, what they want you to see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gates, like those from India, questioned the US's motives. If you believe in an equal access to information and culture, shouldn't you redistribute some of your media creating capacity to developing nations like ours, so that we have an equal opportunity to tell the world our stories?
Right.
The
That makes
Americans
sense.
would not budge. Of course, they knew deep down that India was right. The American delegation to the convention was highly populated by journalists and media magnates. They knew that if countries couldn't afford their own news, they would be increasingly reliant on buying news from American wire companies like the Associated Press, which was good for both the media companies' profits but also the US State Department, who would no doubt have been licking their lips at the prospect of 1 billion people reading news with a specific American spin on it. In 1944, the Associated Press sold news to 38 countries. Within 8 years, that had doubled to 70 countries. In the 1950s, around half of films shown in European and Asian cinemas were American, 2/3 in Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina. Which makes sense. Americans made grand technicolor films brimming with Hollywood sparkle because they could afford to. Whereas war-torn Europe, impoverished Mexico, and nuclear-obliterated Japan were stuck making small-scale comedies to keep up morale. One of the most popular French movies in 40s France was 1949's The Big Day, a mostly plotless movie where a whimsical French postman gets into wacky mischief in a quaint village. There just wasn't the money or resources for anything else.
Do you know what that reminds me of?
Stooges?
No, did you ever see that my dad used to love the Ernest movies? Like Ernest goes to this, Ernest goes
Yeah,
to
I know what you're talking about.
that guy.
It's funny. I feel like, yeah, there's always, never mind.
What? There's a Spanish one, El Chavo del Ocho.
Where they just like make like a guy's like,
Like
a
he's
town
a-
idiot. Kind
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was so popular for
that
a while.
was, yeah.
Hollywood captured the European public's imagination, and they wanted more. But why is it only a one-way street? Because while you can do or say whatever you want within the United States, the Constitution also says that the American government can regulate what goes in or out. During the Cold War,
That's weird.
anything that might be considered communist propaganda could be seized by the post office and never delivered. Books or even souvenirs from communist countries, for example. Pamphlets criticizing US foreign policy. Immigration reached a low point in the early 70s, with only 4.7% of Americans being foreign-born,
Damn.
limiting Americans' interaction with different cultures. Obviously, it wasn't totally like North Korea. Plenty of foreign movies and music were allowed into the US. But the media that caught on was either already Americanized or so plastically exotic that it doesn't really say anything about.
That's like, that seems to be a theme here.
Well, that
Everything
trips.
is so whitewashed.
Yeah, it trips me out though. So that means that the generation that grew up in the 70s and 80s, they have maybe that's why they're so unfamiliar with different, like, I'm not saying everyone, but I'm saying like they're not familiar with like foreign cultures or like wanting to explore different cultures, because at that time there wasn't as much of a mixture of people as there is now.
Or it was whitewashed, like, you
Yeah,
know,
that's what I'm saying. So
version
you
of
felt
it.
like, oh, like it's
Like
comfortable here. I don't
I don't
really
need to go
need to
anywhere.
look into any other different things.
Yeah.
But then as you look into like the late 80s, 90s and stuff, and even, you know, in the 2000s, I think you have cultures that wanted to learn more about, or you have Americans that want to learn more about foreign cultures.
Yeah, I mean, that shows with the passports. Like, not even half the amount of Americans owned a passport, let alone were traveling.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we like to, I mean, America generally is a melting pot, even though it is whitewashed. So why go to China when you could have the Panda Express version, if that makes sense? Do you get what I mean?
I love Panda Express.
You would.
I
I
love Panda
know.
Express.
Brian used
It
to
sounds
work
so
there
good.
when he was a teenager. And I'm not saying that because I support that. I'm saying that because, like, I feel like a lot of people here think that way.
It's just because I'm already like, we're all conditioned to just that's better, or it's the easy thing.
It's convenient.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are a lot of generation, I think it's like X, I don't know, that like when you tell them you're going somewhere, it's not all of them.
Oh
okay?
yeah, you're right.
They're like,
That's so
why?
dangerous.
or like, why are you going?
Yeah,
Why are you leaving here?
yeah, you're
We
right.
hear it all the time.
100%.
My cousin even hears it from her side of the family too, like,
Yeah,
or the other side.
it's true. I hear it from mine
What-
too.
Yeah, it's like, why wouldn't you? I don't know.
about the culture where it's from. The Beatles were British, yes, but they got their start covering American rock and roll musicians. When John Lennon stepped out of line, the American government
those
made
rock
sure.
So did Zeppelin too. But I mean, Zeppelin didn't really acknowledge that they were covering the songs. They just took blues artists that were from America.
Stole their music.
I mean, I love Zeppelin. I love Zeppelin because they're so good at playing. They were amazing at playing. But then I found out like, oh, these are already songs that have existed by like small, usually black artists that never got the big recognition, and they just failed to mention that they were using
They
it.
just rebrand it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny, but it's also not.
It's not.
kinda
But
like-
at that time, they knew like
it's like
they were thinking probably in their
colonizing
head.
music.
They were probably thinking in their head, no one will ever find out.
Right.
Yeah, at least in the time that they're famous.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That he knew it. Movies imported from Japan were mostly samurai flicks, and very few movies set in the modern day. The film Ikiru is widely considered the best Japanese film ever made, if you ignore people who have never felt the touch of a woman. But this existential drama about a depressed, lonely man was only given a limited release in California, and the poster was edited to feature a stripper who is only in the movie for like 1 minute. The narrow stream of European movies that made it into the
What?
USA came in the form of the French New Wave cinema, movies that were stylistically inspired by American films, but also so stuffy that few audiences would ever want to watch them anyway.
Qu'est-ce que ça peut te faire?
Ça ne va pas, non?
Non, rien. Je voulais dire cette phrase avec une idée précise. Je ne savais pas quelle était la meilleure façon d'exprimer cette idée. Ou plutôt, je le savais. Mais maintenant, je ne sais plus.
This was further stifled by the Hays Code,
I'm not gonna lie. I've said this I think a few times. There's something about the French culture that really intrigues me. That I know that they might not like us that much, but there's something about like the culture that it's the history and the culture. It seems so like cool. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like they just seem very like in touch with the creative side. But yeah, I don't know.
a set of extremely strict regulations that were in place from 1934 to 1968. If you've ever wondered why old black and white films seem so dry, it's because of these rules. Some things that were completely banned from ever being shown in any film included bad guys winning. All movies had to end with the police outwitting the evil criminals or the criminals causing their own demise. Any nudity, even the silhouette of a booba, is an instant ban. Blood or dead bodies. When people get shot
Wow,
in
we've
old
gone-
films, they usually just clutch the wound, but no actual blood is
Horror
seen.
movies.
Pointing a gun at somebody in the same frame. This is why guns are always held at waist height. Kissing for longer than 3 seconds. Interracial couples. White people as slaves. Criticism of religion or of any other country. Naturally, this prevented the more artistically liberal European films from being shown in American cinemas, and when they did get a US release, they were usually edited to remove the violence in movies and sex on TV to comply with the good old-fashioned values. At least until the rules were abolished in 1968 and replaced by the age rating system we have today. Even as the Cold War ended and the internet gave Americans
That went
unparalleled
all the way until 1968.
That's wild. That explains so much
Damn.
about the older generations.
access to the rest of the world and all of human knowledge, they still preferred to hang out on a handful of American-made websites dominated by Americans. The insular culture of 20th century America has carried over to the 21st. Tightened border security after Septiembre Undécimo means foreign musicians can have a hard time getting visas. In 2002, the touring visa of a German orchestra was cancelled after it was discovered the cellist had a criminal record for shoplifting a pair of tweezers in 1991. When they tried again for a visa in 2004, the cellist had to undergo an hour-long interview with Homeland Security and had to physically pick up his visa from the
Jesus.
US Embassy. Global cultures might be more present in American media, but they're always through the lens of American characters, such as The Last Samurai
That's true.
starring Tom Cruise, where he plays a white guy in
a good movie.
1870s Japan. 7 Years in Tibet, another American in China. Indiana Jones, American in Egypt. The Bourne Identity, American in France. Inglourious Bastards, Americans in German-occupied France. And
Yeah.
for the ladies in the audience, Mamma Mia. For a movie set on a Greek island, there's not a single Greek person in the entire movie! Is there any hope for America, or are they destined to be a stinky, dumb, redneck country forever? Maybe. In 2000, 92% of the music in the USA Top 50 was American, making it the second most insulated market in the world after Pakistan. But today it's more like 60%, with Brits, Canadians, Latin Americans and Africans making themselves more seen in the charts. Each year there are more foreign films nominated at the Academy Awards than ever before.
Yeah.
What used to
that's
be
cool.
an American-only pay-to-win awards show is now an international pay-to-win awards show.
Pay to win.
As social media platforms have an element of randomness in what they show users, there is a higher chance of
Maybe not.
Americans being
You have to. So those aren't. They're pretty
mean-
much paid.
aren't like most things like that? Like, don't you like buy your Hollywood star? I think it's like Chuck E. Cheese. You can keep busting your butt until you have enough tickets,
Or you can just pay.
or you can just buy the stuff.
That sounds like a lot of things in life. Actually,
They probably have to go through some vetting process. I don't
Yeah,
think yeah.
unless they offer like a substantial amount, then they're probably like, yeah, that's fine.
I mean, yeah, it'd be weird if like Despicable Me got like best acting, you know? Wouldn't that be weird?
Yeah.
they show users, there is a higher chance of Americans being shown videos from other countries, forcing them to take note of what is happening.
Yeah.
It seems the revolution will be TikToked. I've been giving the impression
Wow.
throughout this
You're
video
right,
that it's
babe.
all or most Americans who are terminally uneducated. But American ignorance isn't as evenly distributed as you'd think. That study I mentioned earlier, when adjusting for English proficiency, income and education levels, Americans are really no different from their European counterparts, and in some cases, marginally smarter.
That's right.
Knowledge about the wider world even correlates to political views, and not in the way that you'd think. A 2022 survey asked Americans 12 questions about the world, such as who is the British Prime Minister, what does the Indian flag look like, and what this symbol represents. The people who answered the most questions correctly were committed Democrats and committed Republicans. Swing voters, those enlightened centrist chads, were the stupidest. Only 40% of moderate Republicans could name the US Secretary of State, compared to 60% of convicted Republicans. Only half of moderate Democrats knew that the USMCA trade agreement replaced NAFTA, compared to 66% of convicted Democrats.
Still not bad. 52% is not bad.
Also, I just thought it was funny that the more Americans know about the European Union, the more favourable view they have of it. So are Americans ignorant? Many of them are, but it isn't their fault. It's a mix of geography, American imperialism, Cold War paranoia, moral puritanism, and economic factors that create a paradoxical nation that is both the most expansive empire, but also an informational prison of their own making. God bless you, stupid bastards.
Alright, I like this guy. He's funny. Like he has a really good sense of humor. It's nice. I like how he's a little more like edgy in what he says.
Ooh, so
Well, it's because like in the other videos that we've seen about this type of stuff, it's very like clean cut and like informational. Like he seems funnier. But it's funny because you were saying, and Linda's been saying this for a long time, that the not revolution, but the way that the younger masses are getting information now, especially from the U.S.
Oh, you can
is
just get
TikTok.
it directly.
Is TikTok, yeah. Like you
TikTok
were saying,
went from a dance app.
information now.
I think it depends on your algorithm, because if you're still seeing stupid prank videos and dancing, like you are watching, I don't know what's going on in your brain. But yeah, there's information that you're scrolling through and you're getting it as it's happening, and then the news is like reporting it like 6 hours later.
If it's
so it
even
is
reported at
crazy.
all.
Yeah, because there's so much information that there is
Yeah.
going on. But and then, you know, there's always misinformation.
Yeah.
I just choose to take things for face value, and that's it. Or don't. You know what I mean.
Yeah. If
Make
you
your own not assumptions. Make your own.
informed decisions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, my brain's half asleep today.
Me too.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed the video, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Jump over to our vlog channel. We appreciate it.
I think I'm gonna rewatch this video. Not right now, but eventually, because I feel like there's a lot I missed. I zoned out a couple times.
All
So I'm a
right.
stupid American.
Thank you
Anyway.
guys. Peace.
Bye.